I'd like to call the June 16th meeting of the Government Operations Committee to order. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to Rule 10.01, allowing for remote debate. Ms. Somick, could you confirm that we have a quorum?
We have a quorum, Chair.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the June 15th hearing of the Government Operations Committee. I will move approval of the minutes of the June 15th hearing. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are adopted. So we have 6 bills on the agenda. I believe we need to be done by 6, so I'm going to hopefully at least a couple of them will be quick motions. We're going to start with House File 88, Representative Winkler's bill. I will move that House File 88 be referred to the Ways and Means Committee. I know there's an amendment as well. Did you want that moved, Representative Winkler, at this point, or should we wait?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you would move adoption of the amendment to put the bill in the shape I would like to present it, I would appreciate the courtesy.
Sure. I will move the A1 amendment. Is there any discussion to the amendment? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment is adopted. The bill is in the shape you would like it. Would you like to present your bill, Representative Winkler?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. I appreciate your time and attention to this urgent matter. This bill is part of a larger package of response to civil unrest in Minneapolis and St. Paul and some additional communities outside of Minneapolis and St. Paul after the murder of George Floyd, which of course we are all well aware of, and the need to rebuild. This particular section of the larger package relates to a compensation system for people who were harmed by the civil unrest when collectively the city of Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota failed to provide adequate public safety and basic services like police, fire, and community response in Minneapolis and St. Paul. The idea for this bill came to me just from visiting with people on Lake Street, hearing individual stories and seeing the looks in the eye of people who feel like they were left on their own to fend for themselves and suffered grievous damage as a result. A generation of immigrant wealth tied up in businesses, generations of savings and planning and investment and hope for Black and brown businesses and businesses of all kinds along Lake Street, West Broadway, and the Midway area of St. Paul especially. On top of that, we find that these businesses and individuals and residents in the area face very different circumstances and situations. Some have full insurance, some are underinsured. Some lost inventory, some don't need inventory. Some have particular needs, and some have resources like GoFundMe accounts that have raised substantial amounts of money. And so recognizing the challenge of trying to help people move through this difficult time and rebuild, and hopefully rebuilding in a better way, maintaining the ability to continue to provide opportunity for small business, micro business, and new entrepreneurs of all kinds, which has particularly been a hallmark of Lake Street for throughout Minnesota's history, I think created a particular problem. And what that brought to mind for me was the same problem we faced when the 35W bridge collapsed, which is a group of people who had been harmed by the failure of the state of Minnesota to do its core job well enough to protect them, and the need to fashion some unique remedy to meet the needs of their individual circumstances. And so this section of the larger package creates a pool of money in the amount of $125 million. It creates a panel of individuals who will weigh those needs and take applications and do community outreach through community organizations and other means to create an opportunity for people to be heard and to present their story and their particular circumstances, and then to collect all of those needs, all of those applications, determine the total amount of loss, and to provide an equal pro rata share of the whole to the individuals who apply. We know that speed and time is of the essence, but so is fairness and equity. And what this bill attempts to do is balance those two needs, the need to act fast and the need to do so in a way that is fair. The final thing that this responds to that we heard from in talking to members of the community affected is that existing bureaucratic structures and sometimes even nonprofit organizational structures don't always reach the people who need help the most. And creating public programs through the city, through the state, have a purpose, but they don't reach everyone. And so the goal here is to cut through red tape. It is to cut through existing systems and to go directly to the people who are harmed and find out what their needs are and try to mend them as best we can. That's the purpose of the bill. That's the way it is laid out. I'm happy to answer any questions on particulars of it, but I do appreciate your time, and I know we're on a tight schedule, so I don't want to go through it all section by section, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Majority Leader Winkler. Mr. Gehring, could you maybe just briefly explain which provisions of the bill are germane to the Government Operations Committee?
Mr. Chair, so I would probably highlight the entirety of the bill except for the appropriations, just because this is creating a new entity that would be an entity of state government that would administer the awards process that Representative Winkler referred to. So with the exception of the money, which would be a finance committee jurisdictional issue, the rest of the bill would be within this committee's jurisdiction.
Thank you, Mr. Gehring. We don't have anybody signed up to testimony, so we will move to member discussion. Representative Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the author, just a couple of questions that, from a mechanical perspective, things that popped into my mind. So if you would, many of these companies, as you said, will have insurance. Insurance notoriously moves a little slow. What happens if, as you described, there is going to be a need for speed? What happens? What are the mechanics of paying back this fund or the state if these people get made whole?
Majority Leader Winkler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Nash, I just want to state from the beginning, the goal is not to create a windfall for anybody. So we're not looking to create a system for anybody to achieve double recovery. That would not be fair to others in the affected area, and it wouldn't be fair to taxpayers either. And so the way this works is that the masters have a period of time to gather all the information, and they have a deadline, which is, I think, about 9 months out, by which all the funds have to be out. And in another section of the bill, we are also directing the Commerce, and I'm not an expert on this section, but we're directing the Commerce Department to help facilitate claims and make sure that there is an expedited response. So I think with those two provisions working together and the total timeline, we should be able to determine those needs. There is a related question, and I don't know if that entirely answers your question, but we're trying to balance those two things out. The related question would be, can the insurance companies come back and claim money that individuals received from the state through a subrogation system? And I think Mr. Gehring can kind of walk through any of those details for you, but essentially we're trying to ensure that public funds are not used to supplant private insurance funds. And to the extent that there is a claim that an insurance company would have against an individual to claw back insurance claims because they received compensation from the state, we're doing our best to kind of draw ourselves out of that situation and not make this a claim for damages so much as an equitable award based on fairness under the circumstances.
Okay, Representative Nash.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Winkler, I certainly agree with you that this was a complete failure of leadership from both the mayor and the governor to get these folks preventative help from even having this happen. So I guess some of my other questions were around if a person were ultimately brought to justice for being caught on a camera, and we've seen some evidence of that as an arsonist, is there a component of your bill that would allow for them to be part of the payment structure? Because obviously if somebody commits arson, they're then going to be held liable for that. And after the courts and so on, everybody gets their day in court. But they may be paying out to the building owners Is that allowed for, or is that accounted for in your bill?
Representative Winkler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Nash, first of all, I want to be clear that I did not specify who was responsible for the state's inadequate public safety provision in the city of Minneapolis and St. Paul during the civil unrest. But second of all, individuals who've been harmed through, for example, arson would have a claim for civil damages against the arsonist. It wouldn't be something necessarily that would be restitution. I suppose in a criminal court, you could have some restitution, but generally speaking, that would be civil damages. And the individual would have to bring a claim against that person based, I suppose, on evidence produced during a criminal trial. So that then leaves the individual harmed waiting a long time before they would be able to bring a claim. And I hadn't thought about this, but we may need to make some provision for ensuring that if an individual brings a claim against a wrongdoer or a tortfeasor in the arson context, that that person wouldn't then get a double recovery and could reimburse the state for any amount above their claim amount. Mr.
Excellent.
Briefly, we have another member on the list.
Well, I do have one last question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Winkler, having served as a mayor myself, I know we had an economic development authority in the city that I was mayor of. Has there been any conversation around having a local match, or perhaps having the city of Minneapolis or respectively St. Paul use EDA dollars to help as potentially part of this, to maybe not have the state lay out as much cash? Have we been in consultation, or have you been in consultation with the various mayors and asked that same question?
Representative Winkler.
Mr. Chair, Representative Nash, certainly we recognize that cities will have significant expenses related to recovery and rebuilding. And so I think that the amount that we are looking at in this total package, which I know is not germane to this committee exactly, but a $300 million total from the state is really going to be a portion of the total loss. Obviously, insurance, individuals, and the cities affected in the counties probably will all be participating financially in this recovery. And one of the things that we're doing in a different bill is creating a long-term planning structure, community-led planning structure, to look at how these corridors want to develop and to come back with recommendations and requests for how to fund development in the corridors that will especially ensure that small businesses have an opportunity to continue to pursue their dreams there.
Thank you, Representative Winkler. Representative Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Winkler, looking at the bill in line 4.27, it says the panel must not consider negligence or any other theory of liability on the part of the eligible person or other party in making an award determination. Why is that in there?
Representative Winkler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Vogel, it's really to make sure that the panel is not treating this like they are a court of law, where they're trying to weigh out contributory negligence or other factors. That's really not, they're not really equipped to do that. They are supposed to look at the individual circumstances and make essentially a recommendation which the person can take or leave. It doesn't mean that the panel can't think about or weigh these things, but their job is not to collect evidence the way a court would.
Representative Vogel.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. But, you know, it says the panel must not consider. So therefore, even if they became aware of information that might be germane, you would read that and think that, you know, this person could have been completely negligent in what happened or other, whatever that means, and they can't consider it. Or are you reading that differently?
Representative Winkler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Vogel, my concern, I think, would be that the, you know, in the legal system, you would have adverse parties. You would have a plaintiff and a defendant. In this case, the plaintiff brings a claim. The defendant then says, yes, but you were at fault, and we're going to weigh this out, and it's going to come out kind of at the other end based on some attribution of fault. We're not trying to create a legal system here. We're trying to have the special panel basically make an equitable adjustment based on the information brought to them. And maybe Mr. Gehring could provide a little bit more insight as to the specifics of this language.
Mr. Gehring, do you have a comment?
Mr. Chair, Representative Vogel, I don't have much to add beyond what Representative Winkler said. I mean, the idea here is, as he said, is that there isn't an adverse process, and presumably applicants wouldn't always need to be represented by an attorney necessarily in order to make a claim. And so part of the reason for that language is to give that comfort that it's not a hostile proceeding going before the panel.
Representative Vogel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I don't have any other member on the list. So any closing remarks, Representative Winkler?
Thank you. No, Mr. Chair, other than just to thank you for your time and for your favorable consideration of the bill.
Sure. With that, I will renew my motion that House File 88 as amended be referred to the Ways and Means Committee. The clerk will take the roll.
Representative Freiberg.
Yes.
Representative Salk.
Yes.
Representative Quam.
No.
Representative Bonner.
Yes.
Representative Elkins. Representative Gomez. Representative Heinrich.
No.
Representative Kegel.
Yes.
Representative Lehman.
No.
Representative Lee.
Aye.
Representative Lilly.
Yes.
Representative Mason.
Yes.
Representative Nash.
No.
Representative Nelson.
Yes.
Representative Tice. Representative Tice.
Sorry about that. No.
Representative Vogel.
No.
Representative West.
No.
Representative Gomez. Okay. 9 ayes and 7 nays, Chair.
The motion is adopted. Thank you, Representative Winkler. The next bill on the agenda, I'd like to have some non-committee members go next just so they can get on with their day. Representative Klevorn has House File 39. We already heard this. This is a bill establishing observance of India Day. We took testimony on this during the regular session. So Representative Klevorn and we moved it to the general register at that point. And Representative Klevorn requested that we reintroduced it for the special session and requested that we move it to the general register again. So, I don't have anybody who signed up to testify. I'm hoping we can just move this quickly. Representative Klevorn, did you have any brief comments about it?
No, Mr. Chair. I wanted to thank the committee for allowing me to come before them again today. We would have brought this to the floor for a vote had it not been for COVID. And so I'm just asking the committee in respect of their time to please move this motion forward back to the general register so that we can have a floor vote at that time.
Okay, thank you, Representative Klevorn. Is there any discussion? I don't know that I made the motion actually, so I will move House File 39 be referred to the general register. So now is there any discussion? Representative Bonner.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members, I'd just like to strongly urge us to vote green on this particular bill once again. This represents a community that is extremely vibrant and passionate and active in our communities and has really done a great deal for our community. So the opportunity to celebrate some of those achievements and contributions is something that I think is very much in order. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Bonner. Representative Quam.
Mr. Chair, and frankly, with the special session, we've got two core things we should be focusing on. And if the Speaker had decided that this other bill should have come up for a vote, it should have been during the regular session. And we should really be focusing on the two core issues. One, the pandemic and the responses and repercussions and et cetera. And the other is looking at the police reform of techniques and et cetera. So as a general position, I would think that we devote our time to those core issues, and then if there's additional time later. But every committee meeting I've been in has been pressed for time. In fact, earlier today, State Gov Finance cut off and would not allow members to speak because they were going to take a vote by a certain time, and that was it. So I don't plan to vote on this bill, just to show that I don't think we should be focusing on things outside the two targets. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your input, Representative Quam. You know, I guess it's debatable what our focuses should be. I mean, you mentioned two, and those certainly are very critical. I know others say the bonding bill and certainly the assistance for the businesses that were damaged during the civil unrest are also important. And then, you know, as far as this bill goes, whether or not it gets scheduled for floor time is a decision that's above my pay grade. And I know since the pandemic struck, we've been a little pressed for time in general, and it's not just a matter of the special session. It's largely actually a technological issue, and we're only two committees are able to run simultaneously. Normally in GovOps, we would, you know, go past the time we were scheduled to adjourn. We can't really do that anymore just because other committees need to meet and the public needs access to them through Zoom, which is really the only way we're able to do it safely now. So just wanted to mention that, but I appreciate your view and understand where you're coming from on your vote, Representative Quam. So there's no additional members on the list, so I will renew my motion that House File 39 be referred to the General Register. The clerk will take the roll.
I apologize for the delay.
No problem.
Representative Freiberg.
Yes.
Representative Sock.
Yes.
Representative Quam. Representative Quam. Representative Bonner.
Enthusiastically, aye.
Representative Elkins.
Aye.
Representative Kegel.
Yes.
Representative Gomez. Representative Heinrich.
No.
Representative Lee.
Aye.
Representative Lehman.
I am passing for the reasons that Representative Quam stated so well.
Pass noted. Representative Lilly.
Yes.
Representative Mason.
Yes.
Representative Nash.
No.
Representative Nelson.
Yes.
Representative Tice.
Pass.
Representative Vogel.
No.
Representative West.
Pass.
And 9 ayes, 4 noes, and 3 passes, Chair.
The motion is approved. Your bill is on its way, Representative Klevorn. Thank you for participating. Next, I have Representative Dehn here, and we have House File 116. This is a little more controversial of an issue, I know, but we did discuss it as an amendment to a bill yesterday, so I'm hoping we can keep discussion to it brief. We do have, I know Secretary Simon is here and is available to speak if necessary, but I think the plan is, you know, bills frequently move in more than one place, sometimes as part of larger packages and sometimes individually, and I think that's the intention with this. So I will move House File 116, the Restore the Vote bill, be referred to the Ways and Means Committee. Representative Dehn, you were in front of our committee yesterday. Do you have anything additional to say about it here?
No, I would just say that this is scheduled to meet up with House File 92, which includes the original bill, House File 49, that Representative Moran has put forward regarding Restore the Vote.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Dehn. So nobody has signed up to testify. I want to just give a few seconds for members in case there are any questions. Okay, seeing none, I will renew my motion that House File 116 be referred to the Ways and Means Committee. The clerk will take the roll.
Representative Freiberg,
Yes.
Representative Quam,
No. Oh, I'm sorry.
Representative Sock,
Sorry, yes.
Representative Bonner,
Aye.
Representative Elkins, Representative Elkins, Representative Kegel,
Yes.
Representative Gomez, Representative Heinrich,
No.
Representative Lee,
Aye.
Representative Lehman,
No.
Representative Lilly,
Yes.
Representative Mason,
Aye.
Representative Nash,
No.
Representative Nelson,
Yes.
Representative Tice,
No.
Representative Vogel,
No.
Representative West,
No.
Representative Elkins, Representative Gomez. 8 ayes, 7 nays, Chair.
I believe Representative Elkins is attempting to be heard here.
I thought I was unmuted before, but I vote aye.
Noted. 9 ayes, 7 nays, Chair.
Thank you. With that, the motion carries. Thank you, Representative Dehn.
Thank you, committee members.
Yep. Representative Lee, we have House File 85. Would you like to move House File 85 be referred to the Ways and Means Committee?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay. Representative Lee moves that House File 85 be referred to the Ways and Means Committee. And you have a few amendments to this. Would you like to take, how would you like to proceed here?
Yes, please, Mr. Chair, if I could take the amendments first, and then once we go through the motion of adopting that, I would like to, after that, discuss the bill, and then I have a few testifiers too.
Okay, sure. Which amendment would you like to move first?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the A4 amendment, please.
Okay, Representative Lee moves the A4 amendment. Could you just explain it briefly since there are a few here?
Yep, so the A4 amendment in the bill removes the tax-related provisions that's in the bill, and tomorrow another companion or another clone of this bill will be heard in the tax committee, and Representative Her is also on this committee call. We'll be presenting that, and they'll be discussing that in the tax committee tomorrow, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the A4 amendment, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Which amendment would you like to move next, Representative Lee?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the A5 amendment.
Okay, Representative Lee moves the A5 amendment. Which could you please explain that one briefly as well?
Yep, so Mr. Chair, the A5 amendment really gets to the heart of what the bill we're trying to do, and really structure it as to why we have a purpose of creating this corporation to structure the board with people of color, indigenous people, and why grants should go to these communities. And so that's just more just to structure it.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the A5 amendment, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Do you have Yeah, which amendment would you like next, Representative Lee?
Mr. Chair, the last amendment that I have is the A2 amendment, and this is to address a concern that was raised by the Public Facilities Authority in the bill. We listed them as the executive director to run the corporation that we are attempting to establish, and they said that they don't have the ability to do so, and so the amendment changes the PFA director to one that is hired by the corporation, and in the meantime, the Commissioner of Deed is serving in that capacity.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion to the A2 amendment? Okay, all those in favor of adopting the A2 amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so that concludes your amendments, Representative Lee?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, would you like to describe the bill briefly then?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members, for the opportunity to present House File 85 as amended. The trauma of George Floyd horrific killing remains deeply felt within our community, and as we work to address the structural racism that made this tragedy possible in the first place, we also must step up and help ensure a badly damaged and destroyed small businesses so that they have the opportunity to rebuild. And I just want to take a few seconds here just to say thank you to a lot of the committee members here on both sides of the aisles for visiting the city of Minneapolis, visiting North Minneapolis in my district, in South Minneapolis and St. Paul, to really see the destruction that both our cities have faced. And so I just want to say thank you all to the community members that have been able to be there. And so, Mr. Chair, this bills create a long-term framework for equitable growth, which establishes the Metropolitan Area Redevelopment Corporation, which will provide direction and leadership in developing a long-term redevelopment and transformation plan built through an equity lens. We are not just looking at how we will rebuild the affected areas and reimagine it, but we are addressing the long and historical exclusion of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people from owning assets, generating wealth, and passing it down so that these communities can have generational wealth. In doing this, we will finally be addressing the root causes of generational poverty, structural racism inherent to how we build and develop, and finally close the wealth gap here in Minnesota. And this long-term plan creates a system where people in community, from community, build their community and prosper in that community. And so, Mr. Chair, to the bill as amended. So it starts with section 3, which is the definitions of the bill. I just want to point to line 2.28, the definition of city, and Ms. Rudolph sent out an email yesterday just to show members that the definition of the city here means statutory or home rule charter city in the metropolitan area. And until December 1st, 2025, city means only the cities included in the executive order number 2064. That includes Minneapolis, St. Paul, Roseville, Brooklyn Center, West St. Paul, and Blaine. And then I want to move on to section 4, which is the creation of the Metropolitan Area Redevelopment Corporation. Subdivision 2 talks about the membership of the board, 9 members appointed by the executive council. And then the membership of the board has to be people of color or indigenous person. At least 5 members must have an interest in and knowledge of the needs of the areas affected by the civil unrest. And at least 4 must have experience with or knowledge of public health, economic development, urban development, nonprofit finance, and community empowerment. Subdivision 3 talks about the chair being elected by among the members. Subdivision 4 is the terms. Subdivision 5 and 6 talks about the vacancies and removal of board members. Subdivision 7 talks about the compensation of the board members at $10,000 per year so that we could compensate their expertise and their time commitment to this redevelopment corporation. And then moving on to subdivision 8 talks about the state auditor auditing the finances of the corporations. Section 5 is where the majority of the power and duties of the corporation lies. Subdivision 1 is the general authority. Subdivision 2 talks about adopting bylaws. Subdivision 3 is about the meetings and adhering to our data practices. Subdivision 4, we amended that for the executive director. And then subdivision 5 is regarding the redevelopment plans. It provides for the corporation and the board to determine the maximum grant amounts from this corporation, the purpose for how it may be used, how to account for the grant funds, how results will be determined, and annual reporting to the legislature. And then Part B talks about how the plan must be developed using art and culture, must identify expertise, maximizes resources, support projects as incubators, and use public investment for seed money for public-private partnerships. And then moving on to subdivision 6, it talks about the grants, where they had to develop criteria for awarding grants and provide for equitable distribution. Part B is for a nonprofit organization that is led and has a staff of board of at least 51%. So that's one of the amendment that we adopted. Part C is around having 40% of the fund for organizations with operating budget of less than 500,000. Part D is grantee must complete the project within 2 years unless another time frame is specified in the agreement. And then Part E, projects that may be funded under this grant includes conducting community engagement, planning and implementation, acquiring property, serving as incubators for small businesses, developing and improving organizations, and then training and skills development of the organization, or increasing capacity for other services. And subdivision 7 just talks about the annual reporting, Mr. Chair, and that's all that I have for the bill. And Representative Hurd has been working on this bill with me, and we're both here to answer any questions from members. And I do have 2 testifiers on this bill too.
Sure, thank you. I do have one member on the list, but I think I'd like to get through the testimony first. So the first person I have on the list is Kelly Drummer. And if you could please keep your testimony to just a couple minutes, that would be really helpful.
Good evening, representatives. I'm happy to be a part of this call today and part of this hearing for this bill. Migazee was a victim of...
I'm sorry, if you could just please identify yourself for the record.
Kelly Drummer, Migazee president. And I just want to, say that Migazee was destroyed by the fire, not necessarily by rioters just being kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time. But what is happening on our block right now is our building will be demolished, and every building on that block, and including possibly the post office. And so other businesses, minority-owned businesses in the area are in fear that a developer that would come in and then develop that land. And so all of these businesses would be lost. So I really believe it's really important that this bill is passed and that our community has ownership in this development. Our community has lots of ideas of what could happen. A few of us have already met about the ideas of what could happen on that whole block. So I just encourage all the representatives to really think about this and have our community lead this work, and that it's important that we are a part of it in the decision making. A lot of us are business owners. We owned our buildings. We're unfortunately only had our building. We weren't even in the building for a whole year, and it was destroyed. We had invested $1.5 million in renovating it. We bought it for $825,000, and we have a loan. And so we're at a loss. We have insurance, but even though insurance, we are still at a loss to rebuild what we had. So we are not alone. Other businesses are in that same predicament, and we do have the capacity to do it ourselves in fundraising, loan and development. So I just encourage you to really think about our communities and how we could do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Drummer. The other testifier I have is Adair Mosley. If you could just please identify yourself for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
Sure. Good evening, Adair Mosley, dear committee chair and members of the committee. I have the privilege and honor of serving as the president and CEO of Pillsbury United Communities, a 140-year-old community impact organization anchoring its work in ensuring that every person has personal, social, and economic power. I believe the bill before you will serve as an equalizer and an opportunity to justly build communities and for those that live and labor in them. COVID-19 and the deep injustices unearthed over the past few months highlight what we have all known. We didn't just arrive here. The systems have been systematically perpetuated and implemented to exclude the economic vitality of Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. We have a unique opportunity to rebuild a more just and inclusive society. We have an opportunity to live up to our values and the promises we make to every resident of this state. This bill will ensure communities are reimagined with intention and that residents in this great state can live, work, and play near opportunity. This bill can contribute to building generational and community wealth through enterprise development, corridor redevelopment, and quality affordable housing. All assets every community needs in order to thrive. As a person who's lived in both rural Minnesota, growing up in the St. Charles and Winona area, and then now living here on the north side of Minneapolis, I believe all communities want to live near opportunity and assets. Lastly, the reimagining and revitalization of our communities needs leaders that are proximate to the issues, have the lived experiences to contribute to rebuilding, and are done with those most affected by the decision. This effort will need Black, Indigenous, and people of color leading it, stewarding, and championing this work. We as an organization, Pillsbury, are prepared to work with such an institution. We are prepared to launch a community development corporation that would be congruent with the Metropolitan Area Redevelopment Council, to be able to acquire land in a buy and hold strategy, to be a community developer, soliciting proposals and working through an end-to-end process of planning, conceptualization, and development and implementation in our communities, to rebuild and reimagine our communities in a more just way. And we can get there through having an entity and the resources to do that. We are positioned to receive these resources and actualize on the vision that has been articulated in this bill. We don't have to wait. We can touch justice today. And in my final thoughts, I leave you with, there isn't a yesterday to return to, only a tomorrow to resolve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley. Appreciate your testimony. I don't have anybody else who signed up for testimony, so we'll go to member discussion. Representative Quam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And would the author enlighten us on what entity this was copied after?
Representative Lee.
So Representative Kwan, so portion of this is a replication of the Destination Medical Center down there. But, you know, for us, and having heard and having conversation with community members like Mr. Mosley have said is, you know, what can we really look and, you know, think differently and think innovatively to really have a community-driven process. And so that's why we have structured it this way, so that we actually are intentional about having our community members at the table. They are the one that will be making the decision as to what they want to see as we rebuild and move forward and developing our communities, you know, not just in Minneapolis and St. Paul, but the surrounding communities.
Representative Quam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a little bit confused in that the diversity of entities that had input into membership components of the DMC. I mean, there is some diversity in that. My understanding is that one group is appointing everyone, and that is part of my concern, is that there should be, well, part of the reason why we're in the bad situation is a repetition over decades by an entity or entities that haven't or have neglected these neighborhoods and these communities and caused some of the issues. I mean, I've seen that for several terms. That's why I've been trying for a long time. The huge amount of LGA that is a component of from old housing and housing need percentage hasn't been dedicated to reinvesting urban renewal and helping those neighborhoods to rebuild. I mean, that's what the money's there for, and it's been coming for decades. And I was hoping that one component of your bill would be say, hey, these cities, that portion of the LGA that you get for old housing and housing need should be dedicated to that. I mean, I've had a bill for several terms trying to do that. I think that would be a wonderful component into this bill. And that would be some ongoing, consistent funding source. And, you know, that would be, I think, a good way to include that. Some of my reservations are, you know, again, you're appointing a board from one entity is making the appointments. I think that there needs to be, like in the DMC, you've got the county, the city, you've got other entities that over the years, because it apparently this is supposed to be a long-term approach, that things might change, or you've got a diversion of viewpoints and opinions that go into so that you have a better shot of not missing something. You know, I like the intent, but I have a lot of reservations on some of the implementation points. And I would love to try and, you know, offline help with, you know, some of these points, because frankly, I think we could come across with a better improved program to fix this and overcome some of the symptomatic or systematic issues that have plagued that portion of the metro. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Quam. Representative Elkins, if you could be brief, we have a testifier on the next bill. I know who would need to.
Reading through the bill language, Representative Lee, it looks like the agency would be funded by diverting a portion of the current transit sales taxes assessed by the counties. Am I reading the bill correctly?
Representative Lee.
So, Mr. Chair, the A4 amendment that we adopted has deleted that portion of the bill, and the funding mechanism will be discussed tomorrow in the tax committee by Representative Her and House File 87.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Representative Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the author. Looking at the 7.6, the bonding, I look back at the amendment. It doesn't seem to affect that part. I think it just affects the subdivision one above it. How does taking that sales tax money away affect the bonding that's potentially being done here?
Representative Lee, this is a little outside our committee's jurisdiction, but I'll give some latitude here.
So, Mr. Chair, in our amendment, the A4 amendment, we did delete the section 6 around financing and bonding.
Okay, Representative Vogel.
Okay, so that whole section is now gone.
Yes.
The bonding is gone as well.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I don't see any additional members on the list, so do you have any brief closing remarks, Representative Lee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, you know, just to address a few points that Representative Kwan made, I think that, you know, this is definitely time for us to rethink how we are going to reinvest in our community and really have a transformational redevelopment of, you know, not just the cities that were impacted by the civil unrest, but look to the future. And so we really need to, you know, have this process be driven by the community and be led by the community and be intentional about this. And so I just want to say thank you to members for having this conversation. And, you know, as we work towards recovery for our metropolitan region, you know, myself, I'm open to hearing from other members on any suggestions that they may have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Lee. With that, Representative Lee renews his motion that House File 85 as amended be referred to the Ways and Means Committee. The clerk will take the roll.
Representative Freiberg.
Yes.
Representative Salk.
Yes.
Representative Quam.
No.
Representative Bonner.
Aye.
Representative Elkins.
Aye.
Representative Gomez. Representative Heinrich.
No.
Representative Cagle.
Yes.
Representative Lehman. Representative Lehman.
No.
Representative Lee.
Aye.
Representative Lilly.
Yes.
Representative Mason.
Unmute yourself, Sandy.
Representative Mason.
Yes.
Representative Nash.
No.
Representative Nelson.
Aye.
Representative Tice.
No.
Representative Vogel.
No.
Representative West.
No.
9 ayes and 7 nays, Chair.
Okay, the motion prevails. Thank you, Representative Lee. Representative Nash, would you like to move House File 124 be referred to the General Register?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will move House File 124 to go to the General Register.
Okay.
Members.
Just so you're aware too, the Secretary of State is here, but it's my understanding he needs to leave in something like 3 minutes. So he can speak on this one. So, so just take that.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, members, this is sort of a clarification on the bill that we passed really off the floor, I believe almost unanimously, and out of committee strongly. It's a good bipartisan bill. But if you'll remember, the legislative intent was to have on the night of election a posting by counties on the Secretary of State's webpage of the number of outstanding absentee ballots. We all agreed that absentee ballots are the way that we're going to be going. So that is something that's going to provide some level of assurance that ballots aren't being brought in back doors and things like that. And that's why the beauty of this is that this allows for that to be demonstrated or to be posted on the Secretary of State's webpage. And Mr. Gehring can fill in the details, but this is a very small and minor tweak that will actually strengthen that legislative intent into law. The bill that was signed into law by the governor that I know the Secretary supports and that we all did as well. I would ask the Secretary if he had comments before he had to go.
Sure. Thank you, Representative Nash. Secretary Simon, welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself and proceed with the testimony for as long as you're able.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks, members. Steve Simon, Secretary of State. I don't have much to add other than that everyone who's on this call or at this meeting right now understands the importance of getting out as much information as we can on election night. And so this would allow the counties to report to us to in turn put on our webpage results that are less than complete, results that lack a full count for absentee voters. That's it. That's the whole bill. Happy to stand for questions, but other than that, I think Representative Nash has put it well.
Sure.
And Mr. Chair, quick question for the Secretary of State. It was brought to my attention today that you and the League of Women Voters are trying to remove the requirement for a verification witness signature for absentee ballots. And I will tell you that was something that I was kind of surprised by, and that was not something that we had really chatted about when we were doing our bill. Not germane to this bill, but I am a little surprised by that. So could you maybe clarify what that's all about? Because this is ultimately strengthening the elections bill that we had worked on, and we never talked about that.
Sure. As you said, it's not really germane to the bill, but I'll allow
No, that's okay. I just have a minute. Mr. Chair and Representative Nash, I am constrained, as you can imagine, by the strong advice of counsel not to talk about pending litigation. You're talking about pending litigation and a proposed consent decree, I believe, in a case involving the League of Women Voters. That is pending right now. There's a hearing upcoming. I really can't comment on it. I think there will be coverage about it. We can talk about it at the appropriate time offline, but I just can't do it right now.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Representative, so that's the only testifier I have. So I'll go to additional member discussion. Representative Nelson.
While I support this bill, it's a good thing. It's a good addition to the election bill we passed. But somebody could make an argument on this bill, like was made on a previous bill, that we came into session to do two specific things: deal with the bonding bill and deal with not pandemic, but deal with issues coming out of the riots that happened. And but as the legislature, we can chew rock and chew gum at the same time. So I do support this bill going forward.
All right. Thank you, Representative Nelson. Is there any additional member discussion? Representative Bonner, I see you raising your hand.
Yes. I just wanted to stand in support of this bill, and I would urge members to vote yes.
Thank you, Representative Bonner. Any additional member discussion? Okay, seeing none. Do you have any closing remarks, Representative Nash?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, Representative Nash renews his motion that House File 124 be referred to the General Register. The clerk will take the roll on the bill.
Representative Freiberg.
Yes.
Representative Salk.
Yes.
Representative Quam.
Yes.
Representative Bonner.
Aye.
Representative Elkins. Representative Elkins.
Aye.
Representative Gomez.
Aye.
Representative Heinrich.
Aye.
Representative Kegel.
Aye.
Representative Lehman.
Aye.
Representative Lee.
Aye.
Representative Lilly. Representative Lilly. Representative Mason.
Aye.
Representative Nash.
Aye.
Representative Nelson.
Aye.
Representative Tice.
Aye.
Representative Vogel.
Yes.
Representative West.
Aye.
16 ayes, Chair.
In the
I'd
motion.
like to vote if I can. I don't know if
Oh,
don't know if you heard me.
Representative Lilly.
Sorry, that was my error.
I will allow an additional vote. How would you like to vote, Representative Lilly?
Aye, please.
17 ayes, Chair.
With that, the motion carries. So congratulations on your additional vote, Representative Nash. So the last bill on our agenda is House File 81, Representative Gomez's bill. Representative Gomez, would you like to move House File 81 be referred to the Ways and Means Committee?
I would, Mr. Chair.
Representative Gomez has moved House File 81. Did you want to discuss the amendment at this point? Okay,
Sure.
So before you move it, I just want to I want to mention to members that Representative Gomez had submitted an amendment. It did not meet deadline. I think you'll see that if you look at the time stamp on it. So if members are uncomfortable with it, we don't need to adopt it here. It will likely be adopted in Ways and Means, if not here. Do you want to just explain what the amendment does, Representative Gomez?
Sure, Mr. Chair. And I don't understand how this is all working, but I did just amend this language onto a clone of this bill that we heard in judiciary. So maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. In any event, the A2 amendment mostly does two things. First, it more narrowly defines the geography in which this temporary expansion of a city's powers of eminent domain would be applicable. That's in response to some feedback that I have received. The original language refers to the Executive Order 2064, which was the order that called in the National Guard. And so the language in the executive order is relatively expansive, and we really wanted this to be used narrowly and judiciously as a tool for meeting the redevelopment goals of the cities in the areas that sustained the most major damage from the civil unrest after the murder of George Floyd. So that's the first part, is just really constraining that geography down to the areas that need it. And the second major change is that there's a whole section 2 which refers to a redevelopment moratorium, And after kind of consulting with the city and with research, they basically, cities already have the powers that are outlined in section 2 via interim ordinance. And so it was sort of seen as redundant. So the A2 amendment also just deletes section 2, basically everything from 2-13 up to, or actually no, the entire second section, because it does have a effective date on the first section as well. So that's the amendment.
Okay, so members, it sounds like it's deleting some redundant language. Are members okay if we adopt it just so it matches up with the language? I don't know, Representative Quam, I think you might be the logical person to ask here.
Well, frankly, I don't think it makes a big difference. There are so many multiple clones in other committees, and I think it doesn't affect where people have some issues. So, why not just go ahead and allow the process for the author to have it in the form that they wish, and we can go on to the bill.
Sounds good. Thank you for your indulgence. So I guess with that, I will, would you like to move the amendment, Representative Gomez?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the A2.
Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the amendment is adopted. Did you have any, did you want to present the bill, Representative Gomez, now that it's in the shape you like?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So I was in another committee, so I didn't, but I know that you have heard several parts of the Promise Act in this committee today. So I won't really talk about the context. I think that, you all are aware of what's been going on in the communities that I and other members represent. And many of you have visited the area, and I'm really thankful for that and for the care and compassion that members have showed to this community that's suffering. So the Promise Act, overall, it is an attempt to address the short and long-term impacts of this major tragedy that's been visited on some of our most important and most delicate commercial corridors in the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Lake Street is a kind of a bustling and dynamic mix of large and small businesses. It has historically been the place that immigrant communities have put down roots. There's a block in, it's actually in Representative Hassan's district, where there's a business that sells Swedish and Norwegian goods called Ingebrigtsen's. It's been there, I think, since the 1920s. And previously across the street, there was Gustavus Adolphus Hall. And if you go down further to Dabney's district, there is this Oddfellows Hall that was a sort of European cultural center, and then has been a Latino nightclub for the last 20 years. And so Lake Street really is like the place that newcomers to Minnesota, have put down roots and made their lives happen. And the civil unrest really just damaged a lot of physical infrastructure, and also erased decades in some cases of important effort at kind of like building wealth, creating jobs in our community, and making the space really vibrant and dynamic. So this is one small piece of a tool that we're trying to give cities that, in response to this extraordinary devastation, that basically expands what it really does is expand the sort of standard around public use, which is usually the government is allowed to use eminent domain when there's a public use or public purpose, which is generally constrained to things like, roads, sewers, parks, publicly owned infrastructure. In this case, there's a compelling public need to stabilize these business corridors and help ensure that, real estate speculators and don't come through. They're already coming through. They're already, I've already been showed a number of letters of, business or building owners who've received letters from people with just like a random dude who says, "Oh, I have $250,000 right now. The building's worth $1 million, but if somebody's coming through with cash, so they want to kind of there's sort of these, disaster speculators, I would say. And so there's a need potentially for cities to secure key real estate along these corridors, these really important business corridors that are ripe for gentrification and displacement. And so this temporary and geographically narrow expansion of eminent domain is designed to give cities another tool to use to meet that compelling public need to support these business corridors that have been impacted by the civil unrest.
Thank you, Representative Gomez. We don't have anybody who's signed up to testify, so we can go to member discussion. And I don't have anybody on the list at the moment.
Rep. Vogel's unmuted, but I don't know if that's because you have a question or not.
Okay. Representative Kwong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And in my heart, I understand what you're trying to do, and there needs to be some control and probably not the power in the zoning board and existing. My heartburn is with opening the door on a government being able to grab land from a private person to be able to give it to or convey it to another private person. And there was a U.S. Supreme Court decision that really opened this door, and it's up to the states to try and control it. And that is my main concern with this process. And I don't know if there's a good way of ensuring that we don't have speculators come in and mess with stuff. And there might be some things that the DMC did to prevent some of that activity. But yeah, I just wanted to let the author know, where, and I'm sure it's not the first time she's heard that. And I'll let us go on from there.
Any response, Representative Gomez? Or...
I guess I just that I again, I appreciate the generosity of our House colleagues in this time that's really difficult for our communities, and I know that understand that we might just have a disagreement about using this specific tool, and so your objections are noted, and and we might just be in a situation where we disagree about how compelling the need to stabilize these corridors is when you kind of put it up against that public use or public purpose standard that we have in our eminent domain policy.
Thank you, Representative Gomez. Representative Vogel.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Representative Gomez, for bringing it forward. I can understand the concerns. I actually had concerns with both parts, the moratorium and the taking. I guess as I think about it, though, I now have more concerns with the taking than I did with the moratorium. And for some of the reasons that Representative Quam spoke about, it's really broad. It does take away personal property rights, the owner's right to sell. And I've been around enough things to know that sometimes you're just forced into needing to sell, and this could greatly disrupt a person's livelihood, their retirement, whatever. I'm wondering if there was some way to use the moratorium route more so than the taking route. And the reason I say that is, maybe using the moratorium route and possibly using something like the comp plan process, you bring the community together, you envision, you draw up the ordinances, and you put that in force so that it turns out the way you want it to turn out, but it doesn't necessarily have the hammer authority that the eminent domain would, because I dealt with those laws when I was in the county, and I could see how first of all, they get very contentious. And secondly, like I said, it takes away the property rights of people that have been there forever, and we don't know all of their situations. So I just have a lot of trouble with the idea of eminent domain. It is such a huge club because it is actually against people's right to be able to do what they please with their land. Not that it shouldn't ever be used, but it is a big club to use. So I'm not sure what we can do to solve that, and I understand your issue completely. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Vogel, for those comments. Yeah, I guess I definitely hear what you're saying. As you, these issues of sort of government interference are places actually where I have some unlikely allies, I think, on the other side of the aisle, like when it comes to privacy and sort of other issues of government overreach. And so I'm definitely like very sensitive to those arguments and appreciate what you're saying. The issue with the redevelopment moratorium is, and the interim ordinance that the city council is able to put in place, is they can put it in place for 1 year while they sort of develop policy tools to respond to sort of the issue that they put the interim ordinance in place to address. I think that that kind of blanket redevelopment moratorium, which they can do, just to be clear, like, we sort of took it out because it's redundant, as I said. But the issue with that is that then you have like all of these businesses or existing building owners who are going through the process of doing their insurance claim and trying to rebuild that, and it could constrain development that does support the kind of reconstruction, rebuilding that the community wants. I tried to kind of like tailor this geographically so that it was pretty constrained. And I guess just, I haven't been an elected official at a city level, but I've been a staffer at a city level. And I don't think that there's any elected official that takes the exercise of eminent domain for granted. It's like to your point, it's a very powerful tool that can be abused by government. And so I'm expecting and tried to craft this in such a way that there are a lot of kind of points where community gives input, and that's why it sort of refers to redevelopment. I'm trying to remember this redevelopment agreement, so that there are some kind of guardrails, and it's not just like a free for all of like taking people's businesses within these corridors. There really is a genuine desire on the part of everybody involved to see current building owners, current property owners, like who want to stay, come back. There's no desire to and any building owner that's like participating and rebuilding we're not going to use eminent domain to take their building. What we're worried about is property speculators who would take advantage of this disaster to scoop up properties at a low value, sit on them until they can make a bunch of money, and then flip them to whoever. And then what ends up in that place may be out of step with what's needed in the neighborhood. It may be the price of any residential or commercial property that ends up there, maybe again, out of reach to existing business owners and entrepreneurs who we are developing kind of policy approaches to try to support to stay in these communities that they've poured so much energy and love into over many years and decades in a lot of cases, in some cases generations. You know, when you talk about Ingebrigtsens, for example. So I definitely appreciate, you know, the hesitation around this. The intent really is to give the city a sort of narrow ability to use this tool for economic development, because it is like the tragedy has been so extreme and the need to stabilize these business corridors is so extreme. And so this is an extreme tool, but it's like, this is an extraordinary situation, the likes of which I don't know if we've ever seen in our state. So, but I appreciate your comments, Representative.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Gomez, I have been a locally elected official and was a mayor and city councilman here in my city. And certainly that's not to the scale of Minneapolis, but here's what I know. When you say the words eminent domain, that starts the battle, because to most people, that says, well, they're going to come take my property to do what they want to do with it. And I'll tell you, it's a pretty fevered pitch. And one of the most contentious battles I ever had was with staff when they had decided that they wanted to lead with a conversation about eminent domain in order to encourage people to make or to deal with the city on a piece of easement that needed to be acquired. Very visceral response, and I'm sure it sounds like you're kind of expecting that. And you said it's an extreme measure for an extreme time. To the members on the committee that remember when I passed a bill that required a hearing before an interim ordinance be used, I'm going to tell you, I think that interim ordinances have value. And that's why I didn't try to get rid of interim ordinances. I'm encouraging the use of an interim ordinance in this case instead of taking property, because that is dramatic, Representative Gomez. That's, you know, the people who acquired that property are the people, many of whom are the people you're trying to get back on their feet. And some of them may decide to go in a different direction or to do something with their property that they expended their resources, their time, their blood, sweat, and tears, some of which I'm sure have been in their family possibly for a good long time. When you lead with the words, eminent domain, you are declaring war in many people's minds. And that's what a constituent told me at a city council meeting was, we feel that the city, by even mentioning this, has sort of declared war on how we view the use of our property versus how they view the use of our property. So I would ask that you maybe consider the interim ordinance route. It sounds like you have, but I would encourage you to consider it more aggressively, because I just know that you're spoiling for a fight when you go down the road of taking people's property, and they feel like you're putting a gun to their head. And I don't think that's your intent. I really don't. And I could sense from what you said a little bit ago that you're uncomfortable with it. And I would say, follow that feeling, because it's going to be messy if this were to become law. When you acquire property, whether it be a home or a building or whatever, and you're the owner, you've got a lot of personal identity in that. And it sounds like, and I've been up and down these streets, and I know that the majority of the people that are there are the small mom and pops that maybe have saved for decades or generations, and they buy that building, and then one day when they paid off the mortgage, they have a party. it's that kind of emotional investment that I think your bill here kind of puts in the crosshairs. And I would encourage you to not do this. It's very dangerous. And I think that it sets a horrible precedent. So with that, I'll end, but Representative Gomez, I just encourage you, I would be happy to chat through maybe what you could do with you, but with your bill, but I don't think that this is the way to go. I don't think this respects property owners' rights. I think this sends a very mixed message, and I would encourage you to not pursue this. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Nash. I have 2 members on the list still. We need to vote on this by 6 p.m. in 9 minutes. So I neglected to mention also at the outset that members of the local government subcommittee and the elections subcommittee were invited to participate in this discussion. And one of them has taken us up on that offer. So Representative Hertas, you are next on the list.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to echo some of the comments that have been made. And Representative Gomez, I don't think that there's any question of bipartisanship with regard to wanting to do as much as we can to help your constituents get back on their feet. They were victims. They weren't part of what happened elsewhere in Minneapolis, and they were defenseless in the things that happened. I also want to echo some of the things as a past mayor also that Representative Nash mentioned. And when you do use eminent domain, you do incite a lot of anxiety amongst people. The idea that maybe certain redevelopment organizations or an entity or an individual comes along with a grand proposal to fix up the area basically is telling the little people to get out of our way. It's really up to that developer. It's up to that developer to actually assemble those properties and to pay market price. And sometimes the holdouts cost more money to get the parcels of property put together to make a larger or more meaningful development project. So those are some cautions. I sent each of you in the DFL a sincere letter about my observations about what is necessary to redevelop tragedies like this, not unlike what happened on Plymouth Avenue some 50-some years ago. And I sent that with sincerity. But I have an overall concern, members, about the speed and the alacrity in which the legislature is taking on an urgency to do something for the sake of doing something. But I have concerns that policy isn't always very good when it actually turns out to be done hastily. And I think in these special sessions, and I think many of us believe we'll be back here again in July, I think that we should be a little more judicious in our approach as to what our solution should be. Each of these cities and communities have economic development authorities. There's also the possibility of reestablishing tax increment financing districts. There's a lot of structure, a lot of things that are in place that can help. And I, on opening day of special session, also introduced a bill that would divert some of the state deed tax money from housing for housing and for development grants in communities as well. And so I would encourage everybody to kind of take a deep breath. And I know everything's on a fast track and we're going to probably see an effort to pass a lot of bills out of the House, but I just don't think it's good policy. Here's an opportunity where we can all come together bipartisanly. Probably have a few more committee meetings, even some workshop meetings to really brainstorm and come up with ideas that are going to really maintain the identity of a neighborhood or a community without simply just raising the whole thing and saying it's a fresh start or start over. And even in the previous bill presentation, some of the allocations of monies and dollars seems to be questionable as to whether or not that's the best way to be approaching some things. So with that, I know we're short on time, but thank you for hearing my comments. And I look forward to working with the members on the other side of the aisle to come up with some type of a plan that isn't just being hastily thrown together. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Hertas. We just have a few minutes left. Representative Elkins.
I'll be very brief. So share some of the concerns of Representative Nash and Hertas as well. I think the biggest danger in these corridors is that the land will be bought by speculators and just sat on because the prevailing rents aren't high enough to justify rebuilding. When we did the tour of West Broadway, I had a chance to talk with George Sherman, who owns the strip mall that was ransacked. And what George told me is that the prevailing rents in those areas are like $12.50 a square foot, and the cost of rebuilding in today's dollars would be about $25 a square foot. So I think the biggest danger is that people will buy these lots and then just sit on them. But I'm not sure that the city acquiring the land changes the economics. But I'll take that up with you offline. I sense that you're open to discussion on this.
Thank you, Representative Elkins. I don't have any additional members on the list. So do you have any brief closing remarks, Representative Gomez?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to Representatives Nash and Elkins for and Hertas for your comments and questions. Certainly, I'm not thinking that this is a sort of a panacea. This is a tool in the toolbox. This is, it's written in such a way that it's permissive. This doesn't mean that it's even necessarily going to be used unless it's warranted. Rep. Elkins talked about that the danger of speculation, and he's right. The low commercial rents in these corridors are what has created the conditions where small business can thrive, where someone can rent out a little stall, like the Ocampo family, for example, that started in a little mall on 5th and Lake and now has several locations, full service dining options throughout the metro area. Multi-million-dollar business that started in a little stall in a mall on Lake Street. And so, so again, this is really just trying to, along with the other components of the Promise Act, to give the cities the ability to make sure that the communities are rebuilt in the image of the people who are there now, and not result in their displacement and them not being able to participate in the future of these areas that they've poured their hearts and souls into. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee for listening to the bill and the good conversation.
Thank you, Representative Gomez. With that, Representative Gomez renews her motion that House File 81 as amended be referred to the Ways and Means Committee. The clerk will take the roll on the bill.
Representative Freiberg.
Yes.
Representative Sock. Representative Sock.
I think you're muted, Dwayne. Dwayne, Representative Sock, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Pass.
Representative Quam.
No.
Representative Bonner.
Aye.
Representative Elkins.
Aye.
Representative Gomez.
Aye.
Representative Heinrich.
No.
Representative Cagle.
Yes.
Representative Lehman.
No.
Representative Lee.
Aye.
Representative Lilly.
Aye.
Representative Mason.
Representative Mason, you are muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye. Did you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
Representative Nash.
No.
Representative Nelson.
Aye.
Representative Tice.
No.
Representative Vogel.
No.
Representative West.
No.
With 9 ayes, 7 nays, and 1 abstain, Chair.
The motion is approved. So that concludes our agenda for today. At this point, I don't know, we don't have any meetings scheduled. The way things are going, it's always possible. So keep track of your emails, and we will be sure to let you know as soon as we have any word about any committee hearings. Is there any discussion, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned.
Good night.